Welcome to the African Weekly Roundup, a weekly program every Sunday here on HORUFADHI Media, where I discuss the latest news and events across the African continent. I'm Sultan Mohammed, your host and producer here on HORUFADHI Media. We hope you find this program very informative. Please like, share, and for similar content, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media. Also, do subscribe to HORUFADHI Media Group's second channel, known as HORUFADHI TV, where you can find exclusive programs such as Behind the Scenes and Mahahisala, among others. And last but not least, do follow myself, Sultan Mohammed, Suleiman Hashi, Yasin Abdi, and the wider HORUFADHI Media team on our social media platforms that should appear on the screen any moment. Let's get straight into the news. Let's begin in Kenya, where Kenyans will vote for a new president on Tuesday, ending a heated race that shows why the East Africa and the Horn of Africa region matters more than ever before. Days from the vote, the race is a nail-biter, a sharp contrast with many other African nations or neighboring nations like Uganda, where once high democratic hopes have given way to sham votes and military coups. Now, Kenyans are enthusiastic voters with an 80% turnout in 2017 elections compared to just 52% for the United States presidential elections a year earlier in 2016. Now, on Tuesday, 22.1 million people have registered to vote and will choose candidates from 6 races, including the presidency, parliament, and local bodies. The vote comes at an anxious time for weary Kenyans. The pandemic has affected the Kenyan economy, which is straining under billions of dollars of debt from Chinese-built road and railroad projects. Now, in the former Northern Frontier District, for instance, a devastating 4-year drought threatens 4 million people with starvation. But this race is less about the issues facing the Kenyan people and more about a titanic clash of personalities. Now, Mr. William Ruto, a front runner in the next Tuesday's presidential election, is kind of pinning his hopes on what he calls Kenya's hustlers, the masses of frustrated young people, most of them in working class and poor environments, who just want to get ahead. He delights supporters with his account of how he was once so poor that he sold chickens on the side of the road, and now he is where he is, and with his spirited attacks on rivals, he portrays as elite and out of touch. Now, conversely, Mr. Raila Odinga, a veteran 77-year-old opposition politician, is making his 5th bid for the presidency, having failed in his first 4 attempts. But the outsider is now considered an insider after striking an alliance with a man who for years he had a bitter relationship with, the outgoing president, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, Mr. Kenyatta turned Kenyan politics absolutely upside down in 2018 when he struck a surprising political deal with his utmost bitter political rival, Mr. Odinga. The alliance ended a decades-long tension between Kenya's 2 great political dynasties that have stretched back to 1969, when Mr. Kenyatta's father, the then president of Kenya, imprisoned Mr. Odinga's father, a then opposition leader, for 18 months. Now, perceiving betrayal by all of this, Mr. William Ruto, who is Mr. Kenyatta's former ally and vice president, built up his own base in Mr. Kenyatta's political backyard in Mount Kenya, the ethnic Kikuyu dominated area that accounts for about 1/4 of the Kenyan electorate. Now, Mr. Raila Odinga is campaigning to end corruption, as he says, whereas Mr. William Ruto vows to break down the old, quote, dynasties that have ruled Kenya since its independence in 1963. Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, or the IEBC, outlined earlier this month that August 6th was the deadline for an end to political campaigns, which saw campaigns really being rushed towards the end of yesterday. Now, the election is expected to take place next week, Tuesday. Now, moving on to Somalia, the Somali parliament has today approved the new cabinet that was announced by the newly appointed Somali Prime Minister Hamza Abdi Barre. The delivery of a cabinet took much longer than expected, as the Prime Minister sought an extension of 10 days to the original 40 days set by laws that Parliament have passed 2 weeks ago. Now, the Prime Minister announced the list of cabinet members earlier this week, which sees many faces that have historically had close relations with the incumbent President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud or are members of his political party. However, many were astounded by the appointment of the former Al-Shabaab deputy and co-founder Mukhtar Robo as the religion minister. Now, the Sheikh had differences with the leadership of Al-Shabaab in 2013, which saw the group splinter into 2, with Sheikh Robo leading one group. He would eventually hand himself to the Somali government in 2017 before being detained in 2018 by the Farmaajo administration as he tried to run for the presidency of Southwest State, a federal state in Somalia. Now, many have had a differing view on this matter. Some have supported Farmaajo on this decision at the time because he was a terrorist leader at that time, and his opinions many people were not content with, as it had just been an early time. It was literally 2017 when he gave himself into the government, and 2018 to run for an entire region which is dominated by Al-Shabaab. Southwest State has a lot of regions which Al-Shabaab is present in. But others have criticized the decision because Farmajo did not initially arrest Mr. Robo, and he decided to let him be free, and it was reported that the individual flew out and returned to Somalia, but his arrest only came when he chose the political decision to run for elections. Now, this is a controversial topic and many have differing opinions. Now, after intense negotiations with the United States, Robo was delisted from the US terrorist, and he denounced Al-Shabaab publicly. However, regardless of his dramatic U-turn, his journey from being under house arrest, which he had been under for the past 3 years, to a high-ranking minister was far from expected. While some are critical of the Prime Minister Barre's administration, government for naming Mukhtar Robo as the minister in charge of religious affairs, others laud the move as a step towards reconciliation and a smart way to battle the group. The reality is that some analysts believe that the appointment could play a significant role in the fight against Al-Shabaab, an Al-Qaeda-linked group formed in 2007, which wants to overthrow Somalia's internationally recognized government and impose strict Islamic law. Others have argued that Mr. Robo is a former senior Al-Shabaab co-founder. Analysts point to his time training Al-Qaeda camps in Afghanistan during the late 90s and the early 2000s, where he met Al-Qaeda founder himself, Osama bin Laden, as a demonstration of his conviction to his ideology. Now, this continues to be a controversial element to this cabinet. There have been rumors and reports that the US has expressed discontent with his appointment. However, more reports will follow as news breaks out. Now, over to West Africa in Senegal, where Senegalese President Macky Sall's coalition lost its absolute majority in parliament, but finished first by a narrow margin in parliamentary polls. Provisional results showed this week, Thursday. It is the first time since the historically stable West African country's independence in 1960 that the ruling party's camp has lost that majority and will have to rely on other forces in parliament to pass legislation. Now, the president's coalition, which includes his party Alliance for the Republic and other parties, won 82 seats of the National Assembly's 165. The National Vote Counting Commission said, down from 125 it won in 2017, which is a dramatic drop. Now, opposition parties had already begun gaining momentum in municipal elections in January, when they won a majority in cities including the capital Dakar, among others. Now, in Sunday's election, they gained 80 seats in total in the single chamber parliament. Now, for the president, who has been accused by the opposition of wanting to break the two-term limit and run for president again in 2024, the disappointing legislative results could curb any such ambitions. Now, the president, who was elected in 2012 for 7 years and re-elected in 2019 for 5, has so far remained vague about his future plans. The main opposition coalition, Liberate the People, had formed an alliance for the election with the Save Senegal coalition led by former President Wade. They won 56 and 24 seats respectively, and the results Thursday showed. Now, Senegalese lawmakers are elected according to a system that combines proportional representation with national lists for 53 lawmakers and majority voting in country's departments for 97 others. Now, the diaspora elects the remaining 15 members of parliament. Now, while the 21-day election campaign passed in a mostly calm atmosphere, the pre-campaign period was marked by violent demonstrations that left at least 3 people dead. Now, finally, over to Congo, where political instability continues. And the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo expelled spokesman of the UN mission in Congo known as MONUSCO earlier this week. According to an official letter seen by the news agency AFP on Wednesday, the Democratic Republic of Congo asked the peacekeeping mission known as MONUSCO to withdraw spokesman Matthias Gilman over what it called indelicate and inappropriate remarks he made. Now, the statement read as follows: the government would very much appreciate that the action be taken for Mr. Matthias Gilman to leave the Congolese territory as soon as possible, citing recent tensions between the peacekeeping missions and locals. Now, on Thursday, the UN said in a statement that it had note of the request and that, and I quote, regrets the expulsion of its spokesman by the Congolese government. Now, while the government letter to the UN dated July 28 did not provide details about Mr. Gilman's remarks, anonymous statements made by officials in the government in Kinshasa stated that the spokesman had told a French radio station, RFI, that the UN's peacekeepers did not have the military means to defeat a notorious armed group called M23. That the militia had lain mostly dormant for years before resuming fighting last November. It has had significant gains recently, capturing strategic towns of Bunagana and on the border with Uganda in June of this year. And the group's resurgence has also damaged diplomatic relations between the Democratic Republic of Congo, the DRC, and its smaller neighbor Rwanda, which the Congolese government has accused of backing the M23 rebel group. Now, Rwanda has consistently denied the allegations, and the East African community, which both are a member of, has attempted to defuse the situation between the neighboring countries as the EAC plans to send a peacekeeping force to the DRC. But Kinshasa refused the deployment of Rwandan troops, citing the very reason aforementioned, which is Rwandan support for M23. Now, for those that don't know, M23 or the March 23 movement, also known as the Congolese Revolutionary Army, is a rebel military group based in the eastern areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo, mainly operating in the province of North Kivu. The M23 rebellion of 2013 to 2012 against the DRC government led to the displacement of large numbers of people. The group would cease fighting as the first rebellion would come to a close in 2013, only to be reignited in 2017. Now, the current offensive by the March 23 rebellion group, which began in May 2022, is by far the most sustained offensive since the initial rebellion began in the early 2010s. Now, the M23 group is an ethnic-based organization with the majority of members hailing from the Tutsi tribe, the same tribe as the president of Rwanda, which is why the Congolese government continues to accuse Rwanda of support. Now, the UN released a report merely a few days ago, a UN expert accusing Rwanda and the Rwandan government of continued discreet support for M23, but the Rwandan government continues to deny these allegations despite continued allegations from multiple organizations. That is all the top stories this week. Tune in next week for a weekly update of events across the African continent. Take care.